Hello and welcome to Update by Vegeconomist. My name is Nadine Filko, and as always, I am happy to navigate you to the next 45 minutes of in-depth knowledge seeking. Today, we're talking about an alt protein topic I am really connected to because I already wrote a book about it, and actually, it has been the topic that brought me to alternative protein in general, cultivated meat. And actually, in the last few years, a lot has happened because when I started off, there only has been like one company in Germany, for example, and there have been no products out there. Today, as we can see, there is much happening. We have, for example, Vow. Vow's quail-based foie gras, like foie gras, launch marks first cultivated meat sale in Hong Kong. Impossible Foods approaches EU approval following second positive EFSA opinion. Lab-grown meat could be sold in UK in next few years, says food regulator. And Thailand's leading meat company Betagro invests in Meatable to fuel Asian expansion. Also, World Animal Protection launches free AI-powered cultivated meat chatbot for all your questions. I'm really happy to talk about these and more issues now with four very broad experts, actually. We have Deepika Rajesh, Chief Scientific Officer at Roslin Technologies. Welcome. We have Jordi Morales-Dalmau, CTO and co-founder at Cultivate Foods, Dr. Cornelius Lahme, Marketing and Communication at Blue Seafood, and Florentine Ziglowski, co-founder, Respect Farms, here today to discuss cultivated meat. Welcome, guys. I'm really happy to have you here and to have your broad knowledge. Florentine, would you start off and tell us a bit about what you're actually working on at the moment and what your experiences have been in the last years?
Sure. So Respect Farms is a Dutch company. I'm German, but it's a Dutch company. We aim at making cultivated meat accessible to farmers. So our goal is to establish a full plug-and-play model for farmers to produce cultivated meat in the future under our regulatory approval. And for the past years, we've been validating this because, as you can imagine, there are a lot of people that thought it's never going to work, it's not feasible, it's not viable. Farmers would not even want to produce cultivated meat. So we've de-risked that in a way and validated that it is feasible indeed, it is viable at a certain point under certain assumptions, of course. And actually, farmers are super open towards cultivated meat. That's also something we found out. And our next step is to establish a pilot farm next year.
Thank you so much. Let's talk about this later on, about the openness of the farmers. I'm going to put this down because I really am interested in what changed. Cornelius, would you jump in and talk a bit about what you're actually working on? I know there has been many things happening with Blue in the last few months.
Yeah, Blue Seafood. Yeah, thank you. Blue Seafood is a food biotech company from Hamburg. So we started in Lübeck, and now this year we moved to Hamburg and opened our first, you can call it in the marketing slang, pilot plant, but we are still working in the lab. So we are developing, or our research is going on concerning cells from Atlantic salmon and rainbow trout. And we developed already products like fish balls or fish fingers, which we want to bring on the market next year in Singapore. Right now, the approval is in the making. So in the middle of next year or fall next year, we hope that we can jump into the Singapore market, and maybe then we will be the first cultivated seafood company in the world. But it's not a have to. Right now we have 33 people who are working for Blue in all 4 departments which are necessary to develop cultivated seafood, and at the end not just only the biomass, also real tasty products. And right now we are of course doing our fundraising for the next round, and doing R&D, and maybe just one sentence concerning our stage in this case. This year, with a move to Hamburg, we started our 50-liter fermenter bioreactor, and now we are working already with GEA together. That's a German partner company, and we extended our fermenter. Now the stage is 500.
Yeah, great. I've put down many notes. I guess there's a lot we can talk about. The first seafood company out there then. I'm really excited about that. Deepika, would you tell us a bit more about your work? I know that you have like a broader approach. Could you give us some insights on what you're working on?
Sure. So at Rosalind Technologies, we actually focus most on the starting material. And we focus on a special kind of starting material. We focus on pluripotent stem cells. The very slogan of our company is one cell that can make a world of a difference. So not only we focus on pluripotent cells, we also focus with different species. So we work on bovine, porcine, ovine, and we have a small program with aquatic cells too. So the belief is that if we have to go further and if we have to really scale up, the starting material, having a well-characterized starting material, lays a very big foundation in the downstream success for cultivated meat. So this is one aspect of our business where we partner and we have different licenses for our cells. We offer quite a lot of support along with the cells. We offer complete characterization. We give you tailored support on media, which is the next big thing that the cells would need, species specific. We also perform proof of concept scale up from as much as up to 5 liters with an in-house technology so that the customers feel confident in taking these cells into their bioreactors. We make the accessibility very much very customer focused so that we give them protocols, we give them enough training on site, and we also ensure that we allow them to succeed every step of the way. So that's one aspect of the business. The second aspect, which is kind of new, is addressing people who are in the food and flavoring industry who would like to see what a biomass composition is. So I think that's something very new where we are trying to make the biomass so that it can be given to customers who are interested in studying the composition. So two types of customers, actually many types of customers, academic collaborators, research organizations, early startups in the space, and very established food companies. So it's like a touch point for a lot of things. An immense amount of IP and knowledge in trying to understand these livestock stem cells. I think that's our big thing that sets us apart. If my background has been in the field of stem cell biology for many, many years, and I've been in the space with human pluripotent stem cells and embryonic stem cells. And you see that this field is 20 years old, and you can see lots of things happening with these cells for drug discovery and cell therapy. I would like to take the same story and flip it around to see if it can do the same thing with livestock stem cells for the cultivated meat industry, because it is an incredibly potent starting material which can really help the field.
Thank you so much for those insights. Now, Jordi, you're working on ingredients actually on fat. Can you tell us a bit more about your work and where you're at the moment?
Yeah. So, I'm Jordi. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Cultivate. And basically at Cultivate, we do cultivated fat or cell-cultivated fat. And our first application is to improve the taste of plant-based products. So we do believe into the field of cultivated, and our target is improving the ones that are there on the market, which is the plant-based. So we believe that the most important thing, and also different quests has been there around the world now in the last years, that there are two features that the customers want. For sure, they want cheaper products, but also they want products that taste as let's call it the traditional, I mean, they call it real meat, but I would call it traditional meat. And here what we understand is that the fat is the most important part of this taste attribution, and this is what we produce. You can use fat in every, like in almost all the food, and here what we give is a product that is a functional ingredient, that we don't compete actually against, I don't know, the cheap rapeseed oils, for instance. We are competing as an ingredient for the real taste.
So what I find really interesting here is that we have several different companies. And when we started off, I don't know how it was for you, but I was like cultivated meat, even clean meat. Now we are at cellular agriculture, and we look at a global system. We see different companies and different approaches for the market. Is there any point where you guys say you all work together also, and that this has changed, maybe that there is something like a big collaboration, like for example, Blue having some fat from Cultivate, and then you together produce a product to bring it out there? Or are we looking at a market that has since then, divided up to rather have more competition? This is an open question, so.
Yeah, I can go on with or try to answer. Right now, of course, we are like talking in our special seafood scene between the companies, but not on the deep level, you can say. So, of course, all the things we learned in the last year, or where we did our R&D, is also a little bit part of our core company value, you can say. But especially on the level of communication and yeah, you can say, of course, making commercial for our whole idea and technology. I think there we speak with the same tongue, you can say, and we would like to convince the politics of all the advantages, and of course the normal people outside of this food bubble, that they are not afraid of the technology and understand maybe the processes behind. So I think then we have all the same opinion in this case. And plus, for us, we are not convinced that this, and we don't want that this whole scene will be once a monopoly. So we support each other in cases that we are really happy when other people or company getting approval, like for example, Wow now in Hong Kong, or the other ones in the other countries. And of course, when other companies get really great investments for us and the whole industry, it's really a great sign. So in this case, I think we are all in the same on the same playing field.
Now, you touched a few areas where I think we do have to talk about it. First of all, politics. I mean, now we have 3 companies here in the EU. We have 1 company in the UK. Deepika, can you tell us how far you are in the UK? I only read headlines saying, yeah, it's going to be there soon. How far are you actually really? Are we going to see the first product soon?
I think UK is definitely a little ahead, I would say, in terms of its openness compared to EU, where I feel there is more caution with the EU. And with the precision breeding bill, I think it gives us more flexibility for businesses in this space. We would absolutely love to have a product launched soon. And there are companies out there, they are pushing ahead, Uncommon, and many are there and there is good support in the Cambridge area too for companies to come together because of the Bezos investment, to see if there are instrumentation and other support that's given. So yes, in terms of support from Innovate UK, in terms of infrastructure support, I think there is more openness and willingness. And I really hope we get to market soon at the UK.
Do they see actually the need to be fast? In the EU, I have the feeling that we're talking to the politicians, or the companies are talking to the politicians, and it doesn't really have that big impact, because in the end we have so many countries who have a say, and there are many countries in the USA they don't want to have it. So, do you see that this is like an advantage for you in the UK to go ahead?
I think there is, as I said, the flexibility is definitely an advantage. But as you can see worldwide, now let's look at US too, because you feel there is not an overwhelming support there too. If you just compare the US, the UK, and parts of EU, you almost feel that there is a small experiment that's going on for various regulatory approvals, whether it is labeling, whether it's distribution or classification. So I think it will pick up more momentum once we have guidance from the FDA and USDA. And I think many companies are at least marching ahead with their progress. And I think it will definitely be advantageous. So,
how far, Cornelius, I know that you had tasting during an event, which was like a small round of people, and I think it was like a
It was
scientific.
still an R&D tasting, yeah.
Okay, see, that's what I wanted to talk about, because we don't even have the phase where we are allowed to have tastings in Germany, and Germany is kind of a country in the EU which is, like neutral, I'd say. But please give me your insights on it.
No, we talked already to the European Commission about that. Actually, it's a gray zone, so it's not really illegal, it's not really legal. So we accept all the conditions right now in countries like the Netherlands, even if the Netherlands are part of the European Union. They opened somehow spaces. In this case, maybe Florentine, you can talk a little bit about that. So in Germany, it's still not really allowed, but like I said, not really forbidden. So we did this now in this open, in this R&D space, you can say. But still, of course, we are German-based company, so we would like to be also once on the market here in Germany. But and we need, of course, all the environments here, the money, the investments, and of course all the technology partners and support by the politics would be just great. But our first market will be Singapore, and that's of course a little bit a pity. But I don't want to be so unhappy with the situation. It could be definitely better, but it could be also definitely worse.
Singapore, yeah. So you have your pilot here, and you might be on the Singaporean market. Florentina, could you tell us a bit more about how far you are? You are working together with the farmers, and I just say that I'm really interested in this because 2019 there already has been a study that farmers are actually open, but I guess it's like there are still many obstacles to bring it out there. But you are actually working on the first cultivated meat farm, right? And it's going to be launched next year. Could you tell us a bit more about that? And yeah, how far you are and when we can really, go to the farm and have a steak there.
Yes, sure. So just to respond to Cornelius, so I had a dispute with, an argument with Professor Purnhagen, like recently from the University of Bayreuth. They specialize on this, especially regulatory around this. And he said, "Oh, how can the Netherlands do this? They're infringing the regulations on EU level." But what you actually see is we need tastings. It's needed, and if you don't have rules around it, it's still going to happen. It doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. So the unique position of the Netherlands was to vote in favor of tastings in the Netherlands, and then there was a code of conduct created. So certain conditions under which Dutch companies, so not German companies in the Netherlands, only Dutch companies can have tastings in the Netherlands, not for marketing purposes, but to make their products better. And that shows that you need to create some sort of conditions or some sort of a way to make that accessible to companies. Otherwise, it just happens like on a in between solution, and it certainly helps companies to develop and to be successful, and that's what you want as a German state, right? You don't want companies to go abroad to the Netherlands and do their innovations there. About the farmers, so I think you were referring to research that the European Commission did already years ago with us, and they said that by 2040 there will be a profile of a farmer. One of the profiles would be a self farmer. There's actually research already before that. The first ever research on cultivated meat was in the Netherlands, financed by the Dutch government. And the outcome of that research was how farmers could make cultivated meat on their own farms as an additional business model. And now we picked that up, and we are in a consortium also funded by the European Commission. We are doing research in 7 different countries, among others, Germany. We are the furthest in the Netherlands, and there we found out that around 11% of farmers are open to transition. That might not sound like a lot, but if you look at the adoption curve of innovations in general, which is 2.5% of early adopters, it's quite significant. What we've also seen so far, although I cannot, because we are not done with the research, but the Northern European countries seem to be more open. So that's a validation, expectation that we already had before. And I think that if you look at the profiles of farmers, they are super open to it. By the way, Cornelius, we're doing this also on cultivated fish for farmers together with another company. And these are validations for us to show that it can work on a farm. And it should work on a farm, so not just in a big production facility, but it can certainly also work on the farm, and that's what we are going to prove from next year onwards. We have different locations as possibilities. So there we already have around 5 or 6 Dutch farmers that want to become the first farmer to do this, but we are also a bit dependent, or we make it dependent a bit on the provinces, because we want financing from the Dutch government to do this, because it's also a social transition, and we are expecting support from the government.
There are so many things we can talk about now, but like financing and money is one big issue. You said you've recently been to Dubai, and you've experienced there have been very few projects, very much money, like the opposite we have around here. I don't know. Could you all say a bit about like how funding is working out for you guys here? Because I've heard a lot of, not that good. Let's say it how it is. So maybe you can give some insights on this.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I mean the numbers show that the private investments are going down already for years into cultivated meat. And I think you can see it from a negative point of view, and you can also see it from a positive point of view. The advantage we have is that we have the European Union, and they fund this. Like, for example, the FEAST project, the farmers research, is funded by the European Commission. This is public money. We don't have to give away shares to investors to do this research. And that's something that was needed already from the beginning. So there are ups and downs depending on which region you are. And of course, because we are in the Netherlands, we get a lot of support. I would hope that there was more support in Germany, because it's such a big country in the European Union and so important compared to the Netherlands, which is so small. But yeah, I wouldn't want to complain, but of course it could always be better. And I think there are also better times coming.
Jordi, what's your feeling about financing? You've recently been to Maastricht. What did you talk to the other companies about this? Is this an issue?
Yeah, I mean, as also Florentin said, the environment, I mean, now they call the environment consolidation phase, which means that it's the curve after the hype. Even in the presentation from Mark Post, the first day of the conference, I mean, this was already touched, and I think that everybody has the same feeling that, I mean, specifically in cultivated, less investors into the food sector are attracted to it, mostly, and this is more a personal opinion than just finding it into research, to the lack of products in the market and related to the novel food regulation. So I think that these things is what we, as companies in the world, we have to lobby in order to push into more concrete steps towards these bottlenecks. I mean, as a consumer of food, I appreciate the idea of having a novel food regulation because this protects me to eat whatever stuff. At the same I mean, on the same page, we have to also have something that is determined and established and guided. And this is what we are lacking. So far, we don't have this regulation or this established regulation in the EU, a bit better or much better into Singapore, a bit less than in Singapore into the US. And it seems that now the UK and maybe Switzerland will open a bit more into having a specific guideline. But just to also answer a bit your first questions, I think that what we see into this second and third wave of companies, it's a bit more specific companies. We don't have these full stack companies trying to develop everything. I mean, this happened because there was nothing before, so you had to do everything yourself. Now we just grew a field, and we can have companies specialized into specific parts of the process. I mean, cell lines, bioreactors, media formulation, etc., which means also that the field is growing and going to a good direction. Now, also the question will be about the timings, because science and public funding is very important. At the same time, we know that science goes in the research, let's say, space goes slower than the path of startups and the industry. So we have now these dynamics of, yes, there is more public money, which is super necessary, and I wish there was much more. At the same time, the path of this money, it's much slower than the path of the companies. So yeah.
May want to add here to say that initially, when you're talking about funding, I think there was a big rush and people really underestimated the power of scale and the power of cost. I think all of us, the initial players in the field, really thought this could be easily done, where it could be really taken into a very large scale, and where I think there has been stumbling blocks or bumps is, are you getting a consistent scale up as you go from a small scale to a large scale? These are a lot of things that need to be innovated, and innovated in a big way, because one of the things that is expected from this field and everybody wants is lower cost so that it can be made affordable. It cannot be very expensive. So you have, on one end, you're trying to develop the technology and you're trying to go into a space which is brand new, but you're also having a huge demand on scale up from mammalian cells or other types of cells, which at densities that are not even kind of expected in pharma and pharmaceutical products. So I think the technological challenges are not trivial. So I think initially there was less appreciation for that. And I think now that people realize that there are these many things to fulfill, I think everybody is in a waiting game right now, where they want more people to come out with a clean techno-economic model, show how they are scalable. I think Supermeat has done an incredibly great job by putting out those numbers for all of us to see. And everybody wants to see similar kind of progress, how real it is, how quickly can you get, how are you with price. And once many players in this field put up that information, I think the funding will come back, although I think it's just in a state of pause. And yes, all types of fundings are welcome, whether it's government or venture capital. I think this is not something that will be done by one source of funding. I think we need a huge bucket to take the field to the next level.
And to come back here, one thing that it's very important is products in the market. So and the tasting. So even if the companies now would sell on loss, it's kind of, I mean, I'm a scientist. I love the fail fast. So what we need to do is to really put these products in the market or to be able to taste them. Although the production is not into the price that it should be for the company, it's essential for everybody.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You're saying that because I just had a thought that maybe, and I want to like ask you this because you're just in the industry. Did we maybe, or did the industry go out there with the products too soon? Maybe. I mean, everybody always asks, when is it going to be there? When is it going to be there? When is it going to be there? And we are like very impatient. And then we see products where we have like hybrid products with 3% cultivated meat in it, and then people get at it and say, and it's not scalable, and the medium is not there, the plant-based one. And did we maybe go out there too soon with the product, or should we have waited longer and develop it better? So like the opposite of what you just said, that we need to taste the product and bring the product out there. But because when I see the headline from the UK and I scroll down and I see the same picture of Mark Post holding this petri dish, I'm like, my marketing heart says, oh my God, why are we, we still have the same conversation. It has only been, well, for me, 6-7 years. I know the industry goes far beyond, but did we go out there too soon? Sorry, long question.
Can I give you an answer back in a parallel field with human stem cells? That field is 20 years old, and it has now entered clinical trials. This field that we're talking about, cultivated meat, is less than a decade old. So I think we need time. At the same time, I think there is no right answer to this question. I think you have to let the science move. I think we went through phase one. We learned a few things. Actually, we have a very clear path now to, what would it take for this industry as such to sustain, whether it's a bioreactor manufacturer. Oh, one more thing that has come to realize is the initial players were all do it all from start to finish. But now, as you look at it, you realize each has a piece to contribute. So it is actually starting up an ecosystem where you may have just media providers, just bioreactors, just cell line providers, and just quality and regulatory checks. So both these models are in play. The initial front runners were all do it all from start to finish. So I think it's taking a better path. And I wouldn't say that we rushed it. I think if we had not done anything, how could we have known about this?
I have to say also that it depends a little bit which glasses you want to wear, the positive ones or the optimistic ones or the negative and pessimistic ones. So like, let's say we started, like you said right now, it's the whole business, the whole industry is just 1 decade old. And we reached already so many things.
Correct.
For example, we have not 200, but almost 200 startups in the whole playing field, which are focusing cultivated seafood, meat, whatever, to bring it on the market. That's incredible. Just in 10 years, then we reached already a huge amount of funding if you count everything together. And also we have really big successes still on small level for some people, but that was a huge step that there are in different level in different countries. You have already approval for different kind of cultivated meat. That's such a huge thing. Even if you take like 4 months ago, the first supermarket, but the first shop where you could enter and go in and buy some cultivated chicken stuff, that are really amazing steps. Right now, you can also say the media interest is so huge. Everybody is a little bit talking about it. When I'm the newspapers, the TV channels, they are coming to us and ask for reports and so on. Or like looking at our company right now, we were even part of the German Founder Prize. So even already other businesses notice this industry. So I think in this cases everything works really great. But on the other hand, on the pessimistic way, of course, you can say they do 10 years, and as a normal consumer, I notice nothing. For example, if you compare it a little bit with it, and I like your comparison, Deepika, but I think also a good one is maybe you can compare it a little bit with the solar industry. So everything is working like 40 years ago with a calculator, but for the people it was impossible to think about replacing ones like nuclear power plants with solar power. But nowadays it came true because everything is so cheap right now. So the technology was already developed like decades ago, but the prices reach now a great level. And I think in this case, we follow a little bit somehow this path. I think everything is working, but the price and the amount of meat, cells, whatever, of biomass are still the challenges.
Yeah, I think a more relevant example would be the electric car.
Or the electric car, yeah.
Because you knew you had the technology, it was never palatable because of the cost. Then we went through a second wave of improvements, and now we have electric cars on the road, but the gas cars have not disappeared. It's still an option for the
That's
consumer.
true, yeah.
Yeah, and it is a very complex system. So I know it's not easy to give an answer to these questions. And as we're talking about complexity, and I'm looking at the clock, I'm like, okay, we have 8 minutes left, and there are so many issues out there. We have seen so many developments in the last few years, talking about media, talking about pharmaceutical standards, talking about the bioreactors, bringing it to the farmer, talking to politics, making it global, talking to consumers. You know, it's like it's overwhelming. But what would you say is the issue, the thing we have to work on, or the industry has to work on the next year, 2025? What is out there?
If well, I can start. I'm always a bit puzzled between regulatory and scale up, but I would choose regulatory because in the last couple of days I've been in touch with a lot of startups on a new drug development, so medical care, so for cancer treatments and so on, and the regulatory pathway of these new drugs are 2 times, 3 times as long. Yeah. And we are complaining about, or investors are complaining about 18 months, 3 years, and maybe 5 years. Yeah. So if you actually compare these facts, the novel fruits regulation is actually not that long. The problem is that it's uncertain because the industry is so young. So everybody doesn't really know yet. And I think that this uncertainty creates a lot of risk for public investments, for private investments. And if the European Union or regulatory bodies create somehow certainty for companies, okay, and it may be 5 years, but the certainty needs to be there for companies so that they can plan their business and their pathway to market entry. That's my answer.
Yeah, I will continue to that. I'm always also between regulation and a scale up. I'm a bioprocess guy, so I'm in between. But again, like also we mentioning super meat having this 10-liter bioreactor or 1-liter bioreactor in different people. I think that here the scale up was not important. Is that to put a product in the market, to make the numbers, to see that is a possibility. But if it's a possibility that you cannot taste, then you are blocked. So the first bottleneck, even if everything would work super well, you will not be able to sell it. So I think that we need to find this anyway. But I also want to say, one thing that we cannot do now, and I think that is a strong but in the field, is everything that was said in the beginning. So yes, if we compare it to electric cars, or we compare it to other technologies, first you can buy electric cars and you can buy solar panels. But second, it's a field that evolves over time, maybe 20 years, 30 years as the medical field. The problem is at the beginning, people were saying in 5 years you will have a product that is competing at €1 per kilo compared to a car that costs 20,000 euro, right? So we also need to understand we are doing food, and this is a super different framework compared to pharma, compared to other industries. You have to be cheap, you have to be fast, you have to be competitive, and most probably the field was not ready when the people were saying it's ready. And now we are in this wave of things that were set that seems to be already done, but they are not, or they are in the process. The field evolved a lot, a lot during the last 5 years. But it seems that it had to evolve, like, like the threshold or the baseline was actually not well placed. And this is what just a snowball that is coming to the different companies.
Cornelius?
Yeah, you said already so much, and I would repeat everything only. So that's completely correct. I see it from the same point of view.
Deepika?
For me, I would like, again, all of you touched upon the same things. I think we need a unified kind of governance on how the food will be produced. Or I also feel the governance, as I said, in terms of regulatory thing, is almost like a mini experiment that's going on worldwide because of the labeling and what was passed or unpassed will not be passed, which also restricts distribution and which in turn has an impact on taste, which in turn has takes away the very critical consumer vote that all of you are talking about. You're taking away that experience from the consumer because that is a very, very powerful vote, whether it'll be accepted or not. So we may have different rules, but I think for the sake of science, I think we need to at least come together, all the agencies and all the key bodies making decisions, to at least have something that is very strongly guided by science, consumer safety, and make enough investments to at least allow those scientific innovations to happen, because there is a lot that needs to happen, whichever lever you want to pull, whether it's scale up media, quality, storage, packing size, labeling. I mean, you name it. It's such a young field. And so we need that kind of investment to bless the innovation. But at the same time, at the end of it, there is a big vote from the consumer, and you have to make it happen. Everybody said that tastings have to happen, and we should be able to distribute across countries.
So let us have this as a last issue for our last minutes. The consumer, because you're all talking about regulatory, you're all talking about like high level meta issues and topics. But actually, if I see this petri dish, I really have to choke because I'm like, oh my God, why are we still talking about the same stuff? The consumer is scared. Sometimes they don't know what it is. I mean, we all have our bubbles. We have our families and friends, and some of them, if you haven't talked about it, they still don't know about it. So what are we going to do about the consumer? Are there any plans in having like a big campaign collaborated from all companies? What is there anything out there we can hope for?
To me, it's very funny to have the traditional meat industry having happy cows and happy pigs as pictures of their product instead of, like, why are we using a petri dish? Like, for me, that's a frustrating image I always see in the media. Just let's use a face of a happy cow. Like, why are we saying that cultivated meat is from the lab, and we put this ugly image? We use this ugly image instead of just using a normal picture of a cow that is happy. Like, these associations, I think that sometimes we do it ourselves because we are still in this transition, but also we need to educate people. At the end of the day, cultivated meat or products, they are just cells and some water. So this is not different from a piece of meat. It just, it's more cells, maybe. It depends on the structure. So like if you go into the substance, it's the same. It's just how it's transmitted. And I mean, okay, the technology is different, but maybe also there is less pain in one product than the other.
maybe there in this case you need also a comparison a little bit, because for many people some things are out of their minds when they don't have it or they are not used to it, and especially food is such a product where you have to find connection to, or you need time to accept developments. And I come often with a consumption of music. So like it was normal 20 years ago to use a CD, a physical device or thing that you could just listen to music, but at the end you wanted to listen, you wanted just the music. And nowadays, of course, everybody is used to consume music by streaming. And I think if you take this, for example, and put it in our fish consumption world, if you want to eat like a fish finger, no one is going to the seas and get a fish out of it. At the end, this product doesn't even look like fish. It looks like a block and nothing else, and it's fish inside, so it's healthy, tasty, and the people want to eat this flavor, but they don't want to kill a fish. So I think it needs only an amount of time to accept, okay, for eating a fish, I don't need the dead animal, because at the end I don't have it anyhow on my plate. So a little bit like this thing with the consumption of music. So no CD is necessary to listen to music. No fish is necessary to eat fish at the end. So I think it's just a period of time which is necessary to accept this development.
That was a very nice comparison. Unfortunately, our time is over. It was so nice to have you all. And I see there are so many questions left. I know I prepared way more questions. There's so much to talk about. Maybe we can come together in this round again next year, and see where the ecosystem, and this is something I took with me from you guys. There is an ecosystem opening up right now. There are different specialities building up, and we have a chance to see the product out there. For me, in Germany, I hope I'm going to eat some soon. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you guys out there. I hope you are updated as well. And I hope to see you again next time in December, 12th of December, where we will have a beautiful fireside chat.